She arranged a date with a guy she met on a plane. When he did not show, she unexpectedly met her future husband. Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. Let's get started with this interesting story. Kindly watch the video till the end to get the full crisp of the story. When the guy she did met on the plane asked her out, Christina Farina said yes without hesitation. Christina had spent much of the flight to London from her Italian hometown Florence deep in conversation with this stranger. He seemed friendly, interested. Why don't we meet tomorrow? Go have a coffee, spend some time together, ? He suggested. Let's meet at 11 on Trafalgar Square. Upon landing at Heathrow Airport, Christina and her plane crush went their separate ways, vowing to meet the next day. It was August 26, 1984. They did not swap addresses or contact numbers. Texting was an option. They just had to hope they did both keep their promise and they'd be in the following day. Christina grabbed her bag from the luggage carousel and headed into central London, feeling invigorated and excited as well. She was just 18 years old and set to spend 3 months in the UK studying English. It was Christina's first significant period away from home. Possibilities stretched out. I love London, Christina tells the resources. It gave me a lot of energy. I felt free to do what I wanted. The next day, shortly before 11 a.m., Christina climbed the step out of a Charing Cross tube station and arrived in Trafalgar Square, an open pedestrianised spot home to fountains, the UK National Gallery and the imposing National Column guarded by the 4 large bronze lions. Trafalgar Square almost always busy, and that day in 1984 was no different. Crowds of tourists dodged low-flying pigeons as they lined up for entry to the gallery. Outside the South African embassy, protesters were opposing apartheid. It was sunny with a warm breeze, and there were plenty of sunbathers sitting on the gallery steps and dotted around the square. Christina searched for her airplane date among the throngs of people. There was no sign of him, but she was a bit early. Time ticked on. He was still nowhere to be seen. The guy never showed up, said Christina today. Getting stood up was not exactly how Christina had imagined. Beginning her London adventures, she was a bit disheartened. She had no way of contacting her plane crush, but while waiting for him to show, she did have plenty of time to scan other people in Trafalgar Square that day, and one person is particularly had caught her eye. I saw this guy sitting in between the lines, Christina recalls. He caught my attention because he was good-looking, long hair and kind of hippish look. He was leaning on the plinth between the bronze lions, reading a book. As Christina got closer, she saw it was a copy of William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. The guy was also listening to a Walkman. As Christina approached, he took off his headphones, looked up and smiled. Hi, Christina said. Hi, he replied. Feeling bold, Christina sat down next to the stranger. He looked a little surprised, but he put down his book and smiled at her again. Then we just started talking, said Christina. Then this guy leaning on the Trafalgar Square lines was 20 years old, Matt, an American college student on vacation with his family visiting from California. It turned out Matt had spotted Christina before she approached him. Why does this pretty girl keep looking at me? He thought. Then when Christina spoke to him, then sat down next to him, Matt was thrilled. I was traveling and I knew that I was leaving in 2 days, and then a cute girl sat down next to me. That was enough for me. Matt and Christina introduced themselves, and Christina gestured to Matt Walkman, asking him what he had been listening to. Matt explained he was a huge fan of Grateful Dead. He's been to several of their tours dates in the US. Then Matt asked Christina what brought her to London, and she spoke about her excitement about her upcoming 3 months away from home. There was a bit of language barrier. Christina couldn't always understand Matt's Americanism. She was more used to British English, but the connection between them was palpable right away. I liked him immediately, says Christina. For the next 2 hours, Matt and Christina sat side by side in Trafalgar Square, taking at some point Matt go out his camera and took a photo of Christina leaning against the monument looking at him. Eventually, Matt had to leave to meet his parents. But why? But what are you doing later today? He asked Christina. Want to meet for a drink? Matt and Christina made plans to meet a few hours later. Matt's family was staying at Claridge, the historic swanky five-star hotel in Mayfair. He told Christina he did meet her outside Mount Street station. Unlike Christina would be airplane date, Matt showed up. Matt's parents knew he was going on a spontaneous date. They were also having a drink at a different spot on Bond Street and asked Matt if he did walk by the Christina so they could take a peek and wave hello. Matt and Christina obliged, giggling as they walked by and saw Matt's parents curious about friendly faces. Then, sitting in a pub together, Matt and Christina picked up where they did left off. They shared their first kiss. Christina left the pub in a daze. She and Matt had made plans to meet again. He only had one more day left in London, but wanted to spend it with Christina. I could not wait, Christina recalled. I was really looking forward to seeing him to the next day. The next day, the sun was also shining. Christina and Matt headed to the Hyde Park. We are really just kissed and talked all day in the park. This time, Christina took a photo of Matt on her camera. In the picture, he's smiling, looking away from the camera, wearing his Grateful Dead t-shirt. Matt's flight was not until the evening, so he put off leaving for as long as possible. When he finally said goodbye, Matt passed Christina a note. Don't open until you get home, he told her. Christina obliged. She was staying with a host family organized by the language school. She waited until she got back to her room and unfurled the paper. The note said, I cannot bear the thought of never seeing you again. Recalled Christina today, she remembering welling up. I knew I was going to see him again, and I knew I was going to spend time with him somewhere, somehow. Despite the feeling of certainty, Christina still felt heartbroken. She felt lonely. She wished her girlfriends from Italy were close by so she could talk about her emotions. Instead, she dug out some paper from her bag and wrote a long letter to her best friend back home, telling her about Matt, about their whirlwind romance. I was completely wrapped up into these 2 days I spent with him, said Christina. And the next day, the woman Christina was staying with noticed her bloodshot eyes and asked Christina what was wrong. In the absence of anyone else to speak to, Christina confided in her. Don't worry, you all see him again, and said Christina host. Do you have his address? Christina did have, scrawled on a piece of paper, Matt College address. He was still traveling around Europe and his parents will not be back there for a while, but Christina wrote him a letter anyway. And while she did not receive a reply right away, Christina settled into her London life. The feeling of heartbreak faded a little, and she made friends. I had a wonderful time, she recalls. Matt was still in the back of her mind. Week passes and she did not hear from him. She sent another letter, still nothing. Surely he was back at school by now. Maybe we had the wrong address. So I tried to find his parent address instead, recalls Christina. I knew they did been staying at Claridge, so I contacted Claridge asking for the address. Of course, they could not give me the address of the parents, but they told me, send the letter to us, we all forwarded it to them. So that's what happened. It turned out Matt has not received Christina's first letters. So this is all in this first part of this video. We will get the second part of the video as well. If you guys like this part, you should comment and we will bring out the second part of this video as well.